Alright, sorry. I'm back. Well, hi guys. Even though there's nobody. Um, I woke up like about an hour ago, and I decided why not? Let's stream some because I have time. So today, processor building. That's what we're gonna be doing. I'm swiftly gonna shut this guy off because my computer is starting to overheat. Anyways, well, so let's go through. Okay, let's go through what I have so far of this CPU. So I have an ALU with a bunch of functions. I did note some stuff down. This B used when operates to the B value you use when operation takes one operand. I don't know how serious I'm gonna take that, but sure. Clock, virtual memory, and also there will be input-output ports. I decided why not? Let's have some extension options. Hey Milo, what's up? Good day to you too, mate. Anyways, so we have that. That's just my blueprints. Anyways, what I have built so far, I have this program counter call stack thingamabob. The thing that is different in the program counter compared to my last three processors is that this one isn't just a regular increment or jump. This is actually a full-on adder. And what happens is you have two little switches. So by default, it always just increments the counter by one. If you switch the top lever, or I guess switch, then instead of adding one, you can add a custom amount to the address, so you can do relative jumps. So you can, instead of jumping to an absolute point in the code, you can also just jump by some instructions. You also have the other one, and the other one is much more simple. That's just switching between adding and jumping to an address. So that's about it. I was thinking about having like the ability to write to virtual memory, but then I was like, you know what, let's not overcomplicate stuff yet. So I decided to leave that out. Ignore that, I'll get to that in a second. This is the registers plus the ALU, so for general purpose registers, I guess that's gonna be fine, I feel like. And of course, an adder subtractor thing. I didn't build the comparison unit yet. I'm gonna do that today, I feel like. And also, so here we got the stack, right? But also a new addition. Here's the logic unit, of course, but here I decided to include a shifter. So instead of having to do weird instruction stuff to do shifting, we can instead have a shifter, well, of course. So, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's about it. So that's about the new parts. So we have a shifter, both directions. I think it even has a circular shift mode, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, here, rotate. Sorry, that's rotate. So you can rotate instead of shifting. You can shift right instead of left. You can there's even an enable part to it. I guess. For example, this one mov and imov. So mov just says move register B into register A. And imov, the little I, always indicates that instead of a regular instruction, it takes an immediate. So instead of moving the register B content into register A, it moves an immediate value B that you give it in the assembler into register A. So that's the difference. Send has three variations. So there's the normal send, which sends register B to port A. However, port A is an immediate. And same for the immediate send, which sends an immediate value to the port A again, but the port is always immediate, except for rsend, which is like regular send, so you send from a register. However, the port is also specified by a register. So that's about it. ALU functions, that's gonna be interesting. So you got add, sub, of course. We're gonna skip over this for now. And or XOR. I did forget to add not, but I'm gonna add that soon. Yeah, shift left, shift right, rotate left, rotate right. And then for the functions, so I'm gonna have not here. I'm just gonna add that in 1 second. So I also decided to include multiply, divide, and modulo. So here's the thing. For this I need a multiplier, a divider, and for modulo, as far as I know, the easiest is to just have a divider that can both output the remainder and the dividend. So you can get both the divided value and the remainder from it. And I think that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah. Anyways, you also got obviously regular stack stuff. Obviously, call has also 2 versions. The default here is immediate, because call is usually immediate, but you can also call a register's value if you really want. I mean, could have some use, I don't know yet, but sure, why not? Okay. Anyways, now for this part, so let's just go through this. Compare and I compare. That's just compare to registers and compare register and then immediate, of course. Now jumps, you have regular jump, equal, not equal, less than or equal to, greater than equal to, and carry and no carry. The difference is that carry and the carry flag is only set when an add instruction happens. So the compare does not interfere with that one. That one is only set by adding. So these are jumps to an immediate value. Then you have rjump, which tells you to jump to a register specified address. So yeah, it's basically just a variable jump, I guess. And then you got a jump, which I used, well, it's a relative jump, but I shortened it as additive because R was already used. This is essentially a jump with an immediate, except this time you're adding some amount to the program counter, as I previously explained. And RA is relative jump from a register. So that's additive and register, meaning that you can give it a register and it will take the value in that register and add it to the program counter if it has to jump, of course. And of course, all the jump variants are just in each category. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's about it for instructions. Obviously, got NOP and exit. I did think about having an instruction that could execute any value as a command. However, I realized that's going to be really hard to incorporate properly. So instead, I decided to go with having just a regular CPU and like maybe in software coding like an emulator or something. But that's for future. That's when the CPU actually works, not now. Anyways, that's about it for instructions for now. And then this right here, this is 4096 bytes addressed. So yeah, so now the difference between this and the other design is that this one it's called RAM and the one here is called an SSD. The difference is that in the SSD you have one writing input and one writing output, and they're technically shared, but that's simply because this design is much more compact. And yeah, and the thing is also the RAM is a bit different. I'm gonna have to go to another place just to show you. So the RAM is much bigger. This is 2048 bytes, half as much as the one above it, which is what I had in the other project. So this duplicated, you will obviously see that it is much smaller. The SSD is much smaller than RAM, and the difference is that here in this RAM, other than the fact that I do not know how to compact stuff, because what the fuck is this? Like, genuinely, look at this. Other than that, the difference is that the register itself has one shared write-read line and an extra read line. So technically you can write one value in and read two of it out. So you can read onto two buses essentially, like, simultaneously. And oh god. And the reason why that's good, and the reason why it's different, because technically speaking, this RAM, you could basically have it as an extension of the basic CPU registers. Kinda. It depends on how you design the input output. This wouldn't really work with the one I made. Because the input output ports that I have, here's how they work. I'm gonna explain this hopefully simply. So the main input output port is made of 4 wires. One of them is just a regular wire, the other 3 are buses. So the simple wire is a pulse that the processor sends where to tell the selected device to, begin its execution, or begin its, normal stuff. The yellow bus is basically an address line, and it's used as like an identification method for the devices, because you could do the thing that you take this input, like this IO port, and split it up. You could literally split up all of these wires and send them to as many extensions as you want. And all you have to change in each of them is change the address stored in these 8 gates. So right now the address is 1, simply. 7 NOT gates and a simple buffer. That's just for sync. And it's also easier to see the address like this. So this way you can essentially select which extension you're trying to communicate with, which is pretty neat, I think. And the other 2 buses are 16-bit, both of them. And the first one is input, the other one is output. So the first one sends data to the extension, and the other one receives data from the extension. As for how the SSD works, I'm going to try to also simplify this as much as I can. So obviously address and the pulse. So essentially the main idea behind the SSD, as it's written here, it has 2 modes, a command mode and a data mode. So, well, that's what I named them. So the first mode, that's the default. The first time it receives a pulse, it treats its input as a command, which essentially tells it what you're going to want to do with it. It's also a little endian, but that's for later. So here's the basic idea for command. So this is on the 16-bit input line, of course, because that's where you communicate with it. The M specifies the mode. So you can write 8 bits, write 16 bits, read 8 bits, or read 16 bits. And then the rest 11 bits are for the address for where you want to write, or where you want to start writing, because this is 8 bits, remember. So when you're writing 16 bits, you write 1/2, you increment the address, and then you write the other half. So yeah. And after command, so after that command has been sent and received, so this latch will have flipped, which tells the SSD itself, or I guess this circuit, that the next time it receives a pulse, it's going to have to take the data and write or read or whatnot. Which is essentially written here how that works. So in writing 8-bit mode, 16-bit mode, and reading 8-bit mode, 16-bit mode. So I think the easiest is if I take this and kind of just show you. I'm gonna just attach this emulator, I guess. And so here we go. Oh, I should delete this because this is gonna hog the resources like hell. There we go. Much faster. So right now you can see that technically both of them are selected simultaneously. That's just because the decoder has a 0 address, but let's not worry about that because there's a mode switcher. So the 11th bit here, that just tells like the CPU which, or the SSD, which half it's going to send to. Technically you could extend this more, so you could extend it to 12 bits, which would mean it would be 8,192 bytes, but you have to rewire bits so that it can treat all 12 bits properly. Anyways, so right now you can see that it's not selected at all on anything. So let's see, what will we want to do? Let's first, what we're gonna do, we're gonna select it. That for now does nothing really, other than letting the address be read, but, or address, no, sorry, the output to be read, but that's fine. So let's say we want to write a 16-bit number, or let's do an 8-bit number first. Let's write an 8-bit number to address 3. So we're gonna type in 3, which is the address, and we want to write an 8-bit number, which means that we leave these 2 bits empty. So this is the command that we send it. We click this. So right now, what happened is that it stores that address that we want to write to, and it's already basically selected it. It just doesn't send the writing or reading anything, and it's also prepared for writing. And so let's say we want to write something like 101100011. Press that. That's simple. And it wrote the data there. That's 101100011. And you can see that the mode has been switched back. So let's test reading from address 3. Let's read 8 bits from address 3. So we click this. Again, mode has been set. And this time the next time when you're reading, you really don't have to set anything here because it doesn't do anything. So it's pointless to send data that time. So you can just simply pulse it. And there you go. It read out the data. We can also try, I don't know, like address 5. Same thing, so address 5. And you can see that it automatically clears the next time you send the command. So that's also neat. And you can see that there's nothing there. So let's test another thing. Let's test 16-bit writing. So we're gonna write 16 bits, which means we select this, and let's write to address, let's say address 6, or no, maybe let's do 7. Very funny joke, I know. Let's do address 7, and yeah, that's it. So we set it, and let's write. This time we can write a 16-bit number, so we could do some absolute mess of a number, like something like this. Perfect. And we're just gonna send it, and just watch. There you go. It split it up in little endian order into a low byte and a high byte, and wrote the low byte first, which is how little endian works, and then wrote the high byte. And it did perfectly, look. You can compare the two, you can even pause the live if you really want, but there they are. And the best thing is that technically this is still 2 8-bit values. So what you can do is read 8 bits from address 8, for example, so you can read only the high byte, and you can just do that. And you can also read both 16 bits, which does mean you have to read from the starting address, basically, which is the low bytes address. So you're gonna send that, and just clear this, and it's gonna put them together, and literally reconstructs it byte by byte. And yeah, that's basically it. So you can do this for the entire SSD. So you can write to the very end of the first page, basically, and the beginning of the second page. So I could do something like write 16 bits to this address. This is the very last address here. So that's I think this one, and we're gonna write 16 bits. Send that, and we're just gonna write 2 ones, basically. That's 257, I think, in binary, and just send that. Look, there's a 1 there, and there's a 1 there. So it can do this through the entire thing. You can even set it to the very last address. So I could do let's see, that's 8, 10, 11. Write 16 bits. And I'm gonna write like 2 3s maybe. Is that right? Yeah, that is. And just, oh, it misclicked. And if you check it, 3 there, 3 there. So it works through the entire thing, basically, not just for writing, but for reading as well. So I could just do read the ones that we wrote, for example. Is that right? Hold on, 1, 2, 4, 7, 8. Yes. Okay. So just do that. Then clear this. And it's gonna do that again. It's gonna reconstruct the entire thing. So basically, I spent like hours engineering this. It was painful, but I was so proud once I was done with this. So basically, that's how it works. Yeah, and the difference, of course, is that when you attach this to a processor, it's obviously first going to give it the address, or like the identifier, I guess, and data, and then it's going to pulse at the end of the clock cycle. So, but that does not change anything because the pulse is 1 tick long, and during that 1 tick, that data is perfectly fine for it. So you don't have to worry about those synchronizing issues and all. Yeah, that is for the SSD that I decided that I'm going to be using. And yeah, so that's basically what I have so far. And so the plans for now, I'm just gonna swap to this guy. The plans for now is that we need a multiplier. We need a divider. Divider that can do both remainder and dividend. Oops, dividend. There we go. And as for other outputs, I was actually planning, and this is a little module in the middle. This is a touchscreen module. Essentially, it's an XY coordinate based pixel, so you can write to it and technically read from it as well, I think. One of them here is a read. I forgot what the controls are, but I think I wrote down in the blueprint of it. Touchscreen 2, I think it's touchscreen 2. Oh yeah, here it is. 0 is coordinates, of course. 1 is output. 2 is data in, and 3 is write trigger. Oh, yeah, okay. I think the output, though, is when you click it. So you may not be able to read from it directly, I think. But essentially, I'm just going to show you real quick so that if I click on it, it's just going to pulse once. And if I turn on the decoration layer, you can see that it pulses these lines. Don't bother with the double pulse. That does not affect anything, really. And obviously, if you compare it to the first design, there is a significant difference. That is that it's not only 1 pixel smaller in both dimensions, but the main pixel part of it is also bigger in size. So there's less space next to it, I guess. So that makes it a better continuity. It gives it a better continuity, yeah. And you also got this video mem cell that I designed. I have no clue what these controls are. 0 is the pixel XY coordinate, but the 1 is something, 2 is something, 3 is something. This is for the other CPU. This is my previous CPU's module, because that used... This is not a touchscreen. This is just a regular pixel. I think it is, at least. But it did like a bunch of other stuff, so you could clear the entire screen and yeah. But you could not read from the screen. So I decided to give it a video memory, essentially, which is just literally the same screen, just as registers. It's it's something. It's definitely something. It works, don't get me wrong, but you know, could have been better. Anyways, for this touchscreen, I also want to do another input out. It's actually going to be also an extension port, basically, or also an extension. Sorry, and I want to do like a touchscreen. The only issue with the touchscreen is how do you record the touches, essentially the clicks? Because what I could do maybe is that it records the last clicked pixels X and Y coordinate. And when the CPU requests that coordinate, then inside the screen itself, it tells it to clear that register and tell the screen that nothing was clicked since last read. And meanwhile, it sends to the CPU the last XY coordinate. So for output, that could work. The only part is, actually that's not the only part. The thing is that, sure, reading an XY click is fine, but what if you want to read directly what's stored on screen? Because so either double writing, meaning that you're writing to the screen and you're writing to some other memory, for example, the SSD, which would take insane amounts of time, or the screen itself has a memory and you can request to also just read what's on the screen. So I guess I could do that. I spawn this in. Yes, it does have those tunnels. Okay. So what we're going to do first, so in the notes, I'm going to write down a touch screen extension, I guess. Let's go with an extension. Driver. No, it's not a driver. Sorry, there's some sludge on my mouse. I'm trying to scrape it off. I don't know how it gets on there. I generally don't know what this is. Anyways, let's go to some test world. I'm high as fuck is perfect for this. Oh, this is where I was testing. Aha, interesting. I did a bunch of other stuff here too, but that's irrelevant. Oh, is this a multiplier? A 16-bit combination of multiplier. Oh my fucking god. This is wonderful. What kind of stuff do I have stored here? My god. Anyways, let's delete this for now. And let's bring our touch screen here. So how big of a screen do we want for this? We have 16-bit numbers here, or 8-bit if you want to be a bit more, space conserving, I guess. So how do we want to do this? Let's see. How big of a screen could fit? Let's test some sizes here. Let's delete these for now. So let's make this. That's 8. That's 8. 16, 32. 32 wide is not bad, I think. And for height. Oh, 1 second. Let me just. Oh, nope, wrong one. There we go. So it doesn't scream at my head. So we could also, let's see, how big could we make this? Let's see. Let's do 8. And then let's like that. 16. 32 is this. And then this would be 64. So I could have a 32 by 64 screen. That would be huge. But you could do a bunch of stuff on that screen, to be honest. Like, for a touch screen, look at, for example, if I just press, oh, it's not gonna let me. Oh yeah, that's really good. I forgot about tunnels. It's not letting me copy, Jesus. Okay, there we go. I'm just gonna the vests from there to there. It's gonna be, yep, it's gonna be lined up like that. There we go. I think it should let me run it now. Perfect. So this is how big that screen is. And ooh, hitting the pixels though, that's gonna be a task. But yeah, see it sends out that XY little trigger, which is really nice that it works, I'm really happy that it does. On a normal screen that looks like this, so, it's really hard to hit those pixels, by the way, because there's still space between them. So it's like a 50-50 that you hit a pixel and 50-50 that you hit nothing. But I do not know how I'm gonna make this more compact, to be honest, because I still want to have a square pixel, because that's what fills the most space, the most amount of space. But I do not know how to get this thing down from 4 pixels wide to 3. Because this is already pushing the boundaries like hell. And dude, I don't know if I can even compress this down. Like, honestly, I don't even think this is possible to be compressed further. Maybe it is, but I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to do. Anyways, I feel like 32 by 64 is quote unquote reasonable. So it's not bad. Now the thing is, how do you send this? Because remember, a port is made off of a pulse line, an 8-bit address line. So both of those are just, regular works. And then what you can send data through is a single 16-bit line. So you either have the choice. So here's what we can do. You can either have a lot of cycles, and then how it would go is that you send a command that you want to, for example, write, and then you'd have one cycle to send one of the addresses and another cycle to send the other. Or you let the CPU compact this down a bit. So what you would do is, in the CPU, you take the two addresses, or the two coordinates, which are going to be at max 8 bits possibly. Actually, no, 64 bits. 64 bits? Or 60, what? 64 different options fit in 6 bits. So technically you could just have, since we have shifting and logics and whatnot, you could just take the two coordinates and put them in one register, one in the high byte, one in the low byte, and send them together. And so hold on. Let's over-engineer this. 64 fits in 6 bits. 32 fits in 5. So that's 11 bits out of the 16. So we still have 5 free bits. And in those 5, one of them will be taking up the data you want to send. So you, like, if you're writing, of course, then you would be sending 1 bit to tell it if you want to write a 0 or a 1. And you would be at 12 bits. And you'd still have 4 bits left as basically free space, I think. Because I don't know if does anything, because what we have, yeah, we have coordinates and a data in, which are specified by the input, because the output is output and write trigger is dependent on the circuitry itself that writes. So yeah, so the entire thing fits in 12 bits. So that could be nice, I guess. It would be really over-engineered, but if you think about it, it's not that bad. And if you really think about it, doing that means you could do a very simple clearing, because you just loop through and send a single register and increment it until it reaches the 11-bit limit. Because when it switches to 12 bits, it will be starting to write 1. So you could very easily just clear the whole screen with a single loop. Because this does not have a built-in clear. I did not make a built-in clear signal, so yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So now how this these stutters and whatnot are just not it, bro. 2 is data in and 3 is write trigger. Those are going to be wired together because the coordinates specify where you actually want to write, really. So okay. Let's write this down. So here's the thing. It's also going to have a command mode, because you cannot escape that. So on is the command. You have 16 bits and you have to split that up into different commands. And let's see, what can we do with this guy? We can essentially write to the screen, read from the screen, and read the touch screen part. So essentially you can do 3 things. So the command is gonna probably look like, let's see. So these are the 16 bits. And out of those 16, this we've got 3 commands. We either split them up into 3 separate bits, or we do the decoder, but I feel like the easiest is to do this. So mode tells us that it's 001. Actually, no, because think about it. Hold on. We don't need 3 bits because we can treat 0 as a command as well. So if it's 00, Then we write 0, 1 is read screen, and 1, 0, oops, is read touch screen. The difference between read screen and read touch screen is that when you read from the screen itself, then you read pixel data. And when you read from the touch screen, you're reading where the last input was made on the screen. So that's nice. And then the second is the execution part, which has 3 categories. So, writing. During writing, you have 16 bits. Out of that, that's going to be the Y. So, X, Y, and a data here. So these are the input parts in writing, and the rest is going to be so execution is going to happen there. Then reading green. In that case, it's a very similar. The difference is that data is unused in this case. So X coordinate, Y coordinate, sure, but we do not have to specify a data. So that's for reading screen. And for reading touch screen, telling us if and that's going to be, I think the easiest there to do is instead of sending it like this together, when outputting the last contact point, then instead we're gonna split them up into 8 bits. So per byte. I feel like that's much more clean. Much cleaner to see than chaining it together. I know it's not exactly consistent because writing and the other reading both take as input, both take hold on, I see, right, has no input. So I feel like it's much more clean for reading out data. Oh wait, actually hold on, I have to specify sends back a single bit. So that sends back a single bit that just tells it like I don't know, it's either 1 or 0. That's there's nothing else behind that. So, or actually, do we want to be consistent with the other ones and just clump them together? I mean, it doesn't really make too much, doesn't make too much of a change in speed So I guess we could do that. So yeah, that's cool. That is about it for execution, I think. So it's also a two-phase thing. Am I forgetting anything? Because I feel like I am. But I'm not. I feel like I may be schizophrenic, honestly. Oh, I'm also gonna have to redesign this guy. Because now all we have to do is just write and read from it, so we're gonna have to get rid of some stuff. Okay. Okay. I feel like today I'm not gonna be more productive because I'm already a bit slow in the head, and but I did write down a bunch of useful stuff for next time. I don't know if I'm gonna be streaming this or I'm gonna be doing this off camera. It depends on how time, aligns and all. But for now I'm gonna have to go. And I hope you all enjoyed this pretty, well, rather boring stream, I feel like, but if you did, I'm glad. I'm glad to be entertaining and all. And I'll see you guys next time. I think maybe next week, probably not, but some time in the future. August for sure. You will see me in August for sure, but I don't know if you'll see me in July again. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll hope to catch you soon again. And until then, have a great